So, I mean, you both work with a really wide range of varietals. Are there any particular ones that like what are your favorites to work with? What excites you at the moment? Izele, whether you go first for this.
Yeah, so I love niche varietals. I love playing around with. That's why I have a Petit Verdot in the bottle, a Cabernet Franc. I've got a Carmenere. There's other varietals that I play with. I play around with Mourvedre, Nebbiolo, Sangiovese, Malbec, Petit Jura, Tempranillo. There's so many different varietals that we get into the winery and we play around. And for me, that's the exciting part of not just South Africa, but the world is, yes, we all produce Cabernets and Shirazes and Sauvignon Blancs and Chardonnays, but I think there's a hidden secret in all these different niche varietals like Petit Verdot. France, Bordeaux, they do produce a bit of Petit Verdot, but it all goes into the Bordeaux blends. In South Africa, Petit Verdot is the hidden gem where we actually can produce a wine that can stand up as a single varietal, and we have the climate to get it to optimum ripeness. So Petit Verdot, Cabernet Franc for me is one of those varietals that I've got this love-hate relationship with them. When they arrive in the winery, I'm like, oh no, it's Petit Verdot again, because it's got all these small little green berries in between the bigger berries. And with the hand sorting, it's not fun to work with Petit Verdot. But then when you crush the grapes and you taste the juice after 1 day of cold soaking, it's pitch black and it's got all this fruit concentration and it just makes amazing wines. And adding 5 or 10% of Petit Verdot to a blend just makes the blend 10 to 15 times better. So it's always my hidden secret to all the blends where I just add a 5% of Petit Verdot and it just brings aromas of plums and dark fruits, but also a bit of lift on the nose with florals, violets. It's almost like a perfume shop when you walk into it. So there's a lot. I love talking about niche varietals because it's exciting new varietals that we can actually, and some of them, they are niche for us as South Africans, like the Italian varietals, Sangiovese and Nebbiolo. We're not used to having these varietals in South Africa, but lots more wine producers are starting to plant them and playing around with them and experimenting with them. And you can see small pockets that are bottled on their own in South Africa currently.
My sort of feeling at the moment is that it may not be my absolutely favourite variety, but I think one of the most interesting varieties we're doing quite a lot of work with at the moment is Grenache, out of some of the warmer districts, and I think historically Australia has always sort of grown Shiraz in every region, and it's probably only recently that people are now starting to look at is Shiraz the best, sort of red grape variety for some of our warmer climates, and how can we utilise, things like Grenache that love the heat even more, to produce some charm and things like that in some of those sort of, in some of those blends with Shiraz. And I think I was at a tasting this morning with a group of retailers, and we were talking about the role of Grenache in Australia being incredibly important for those warm districts. And I sort of said to one of them that I wouldn't perhaps make Shiraz again, sort of without adding, 40% Grenache, for example, to it. I just think Grenache is such an important, variety. And Adele was speaking about, Carignan and some of those varieties. I think they have an important role as well. But and some of the retailers said to me only 40%. I would have thought you'd need a lot more in Australian Shiraz to make it more approachable and more drinkable and softer and more perfumed and more elegant. So I think, Grenache is going to play an incredibly important part, and some of the other Southern Rhone varieties, I think, in some of our warmer districts. So I guess that really excites me. It's pretty easy in the cooler climates, and particularly some of the cooler aspects in the cooler climates, to be excited by Chardonnay and Pinot Noir. We all are, of course, but it is interesting that a lot of our work at the moment is on trying to make Cabernet taste really interesting for some of the younger generation. In Australia, a lot of the younger people don't drink Cabernet anymore. That's sort of the domain of old folk like me. And, so all my kids and, the young winemakers here all drink, Pinot Noir. They all drink Gamay. They drink Grenache. They drink all of those types of things, and very few of them drink Cabernet. And, one of the wines that we're putting on tonight is a Cabernet made in amphora that has got a different shape to the wine. And I think we've got to look at ways of making Cabernet appealing to some of the younger drinkers and maybe the next generation of wine enthusiasts. And that it isn't it isn't sort of the domain of old people and Bordeaux type cravats and all the rest of it. It's more that it is a beautiful wine, and it has got a softness and a richness, and but it's also got sort of really nice complexity. So we're doing a lot of experimentation this year to try and make Cabernet perhaps not taste so much like Cabernet, but just really interesting dry red wine. So that's sort of where I think some of the really interesting sort of challenges are, and exciting opportunities.